And also COVID-19 has affected various industries, among them the hotel industry. And right now I am joined by Mehdi Morad, the General Manager, Movenpick and Residences in Nairobi. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. The industry has been really affected, and over the last couple of months we have seen hotels making some changes, and the Norfolk did announce that it was closing its hotels and beginning afresh the recruitment process. We have seen other hotels also making the same kind of announcements, and we do expect that as soon as probably the situation go back to normal, Kenyans or those who have been affected by COVID-19 have will have an opportunity to continue with their lives as normal, jobs creation and whatnot. In terms of the preparedness and in terms of the changes that have been brought into action by these hotels, what can you say has been the major one?
So what has been what, sorry?
All right, let me rephrase it. In terms of the changes that have been put in place by hotels to curb the spread of COVID-19, what would you say is the main one, a significant one?
I mean, first of all, we had to all obey and adhere to the regulations that has been set by the Ministry of Health, and then with the coordination of the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife Services, that came up with very comprehensive guidelines for the reopening of the hotels. You know, when this crisis hit us, most of the hotels went and closed or reduced largely their operations. So you could just not open the way you were. You had to adapt. I mean, today, I'm not wearing my mask because for the interview, but you cannot walk into a hotel without a mask anymore. When hospitality was all about the welcoming and the touch points with the guests. But today you have a plexiglass at the reception, you have to keep a social distancing, and a lot of measures that when you walk into a hotel today can remind you a little bit more of a hospital than a hotel. But that's the new norm and the way of doing the business.
We saw that Norfolk hotels did close, and we do expect that probably they will be operational soon. But the main concern has been the loss of jobs. I know that as businesses you have to stay afloat. What are you doing as Movenpick to ensure that your workers are cushioned against the vagaries of what we are experiencing now?
In my role, I'm also in charge of the Norfolk, by the way, because I'm the country general manager for Accor Hotels. But I can say Norfolk was just one of the other hotels. Many hotels shut down immediately. And the question is, how do we go onwards? And when will we be able to reopen and resume operations in order to bring our people in? In Movenpick, we never closed because we always had the hotel and the residences, and we had some long stays, so we really adapted to that. But still, we had to scale down our operation and send, sadly, majority of our artists, our team, on unpaid leave. Hopefully, lately, we managed to get some relief out from Accor. There's a fund that has been set in France a few months back, and we're able to give a little bit of retainer, 10,000 shillings per employee for all the Accor properties, including Norfolk, the Fairmont in Mount Kenya, the Ibis Styles, and so on, with also supports of the owners of these properties. But it remains the minimum sum you give in to caution the people, but the hospitality today is really, really on the knees, and we don't see yet the signs of recovery, sadly.
And what are some of the measures which are being put in place to encourage Kenyans to stay alive to the fact that our hotels need to be supported, our tourism sector also needs to be supported? Are there tariffs, probably new ones, which have been developed?
Well, there's a very big list. I mean, if you've been to Mara last week, or if you have any business, we have the Fairmont Mara there. And we could see a good interest last week when there was a long weekend. A lot of people went to Mara, and certainly for the first time, Kenyans to go and see the migration. And that's an amazing first step. It is very encouraging, and I know the CS Balala is pushing very hard in this. He's calling us all the operators, pushing us to get better offers, adapt to the offer. It's not only about the rate, it is also about how you adapt your offering. Though, again, the issue here is that, sadly, it's great for the leisure destinations like Masai Mara, Mount Kenya, and you name it, Samburu, and so on. But when you look to our domestic market, it's very, very small for the moment. It's very limited. And the destinations where people can go are also limited. Nobody will come to Nairobi on holidays. I mean, some weekend business you can get from the coast, or you can see us go into the coast. But sadly, that's a great first step, but that cannot replace and sustain the business, especially for corporate hotels.
Some Kenyans have really questioned how hotels are handling matters sanitation, because it is at the center of everything here. We have seen in the internet or even in the conventional media that some hotels are really doing badly when it comes to sanitation, that bed sheets are not being changed, pillow covers are also not being changed. What is being done to restore that confidence among your customers that if I check into a hotel today, I will be rest assured that the bed sheet or the beddings that I'm going to use are clean?
I mean, that's the minimum you could expect even before COVID or anything like that. I mean, yes, you get always these, I've seen, I think, I know what you're referring to. It was from BBC in the UK, and we've seen these tests, or in the US also, that they conducted some tests like that. Today, the normal, I mean, that used to be what the minimum you would expect. Today we go way beyond that. For example, in Accor properties, we have the All Safe label, and no hotel in Accor could reopen or keep operating without adhering to, I'm just giving you, it's a guideline of hundreds of pages. And you had to, there's a lot of touch points that has to be checked and so on and so on. And you have to check all these points before you can operate. I guess that people, I mean, if you have to refer to these people who were that far into letting down their clients, I hope that today they realize and that they're really taking these measures more seriously, because it was already a health issue before, obviously, in their properties. And today it can be even life-threatening, obviously. So hopefully, I want to think that is still an exception and not the norm in the hotels. And I think in Kenya, you never had any wild scandal about cleanliness in the properties, in the hotels, or even in the lodges. Obviously, you've got levels of hotels, you've got classifications, stars, and so on. But globally, I think Kenya takes very seriously, and Kenyans and the hotels in Kenya take very seriously that point.
The government recently announced that the ban on the sale of alcohol still stands, but hotels have been given a leeway. You can serve your guests in their rooms. How is this working for you?
I think if you have to come back to why the government banned the alcohol, for us it was very bad news, because we just reopened our restaurants. Regardless if you are in a hotel or outside the hotel, alcohol represents quite a bit of your revenues and encourages people to come out also to the restaurant. But you understand also the government, in some social places where parties started to happen and so on, then the danger was increasing. Hotels, not many people come to us for party. They rather come to us for like very, formal, if I may say, dinners and lunches. We were hoping we would get that exception. We didn't, which is also understandable. Though the relief of being able to sell alcohol into the room service doesn't really change anything to us. We all lost, and hotels and restaurants lost between 30 to 70% of their revenues based on the type of guests they have. And sadly, as long as this alcohol ban is there, our catering and the restaurants are not really, really sustainable for the moment.
And just briefly, back to tariffs. During such a period, do you raise the tariffs or you lower the tariffs?
I think you've seen, there's two things to that. The corporate hotels were already suffering before the COVID. Let's face it. I was here a few months ago. It was in February. I was discussing that back then it was the ban. It was from the US travel ban, and following the terrorist attack that happened in Lamu on the American base, if I'm not mistaken. And we're already suffering, and we already dropped our rates seriously back then. So when we reopened, we are reopening pretty much on the same rates. Nothing, by discounting your tariffs, you're not getting more people. That's definitely not happening. Now, when it comes to the leisure market, I'm really happy I've seen few lodges. I mean, you cannot blame again. When the demand was there, it's again an offer and demand. And a lot of foreigners coming into the country. Back then, of course, there were rates that were high, especially during the migration season. rates were higher for foreigners, and we had offers for the locals and residents, but it's never been really attractive. Now they came up with very strongly attractive rates. I've seen some amazing lodges that used to sell around the $800 per person, selling 19,000 shillings full board. It's a good first step, and I hope that this will really encourage Kenyans and residents to discover this amazing country and what we have to offer.
All right, thank you very much. That is Mehdi Morad, the General Manager, Movenpick Hotel and Residences in Nairobi. We do thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.